Jake Johnson guest starred in the season 1 episode of Mythic Quest, Raven's Banquet, A Dark Quiet Death. I'm Matt from Gold Derby, here to ask you, Jake, what was your favorite thing about that episode?
Working with Kristen and Rob and the writer Katie. It was the people. I'd wanted to work with Rob for a long time. I've been a fan of his work for years. When I was shooting New Girl, they were doing It's Always Sunny on the same lot. So I'd heard about his process a lot. I'd heard about him a lot. And when this came, I jumped on the chance to work with him. And then, every day on this one was a real blast.
What was it about, from having heard about his process a lot, what was it like experiencing it?
What I really liked about Rob is that he is very confident in what he wants to do, but he's also very collaborative. He knows what he wants the vision to be, but he also allows actors to make choices and add a little bit. His crew is very open and part of the process. He's truly a great leader. And I had heard that about him, but I wanted to experience it, and I'm glad I did.
Were you given freedom to add stuff to this character of Doc that you played?
A little bit. We were definitely allowed to. But it wasn't one of those scripts that needed very much. Katie Magalani had written a great script, and everything was there. But I think what Kristen and I added to it was the chemistry and the way that these two liked each other. The only thing that's never on page is chemistry between two people. I do believe that's the actor's job. That's not the writer or the director. That's the job of the actors, to connect and find what is the glue between those two people. Dan Aykroyd used to always talk about John Belushi and about whatever that glue was between them two that made that thing special. I think an actor, whenever you're in a scene, it's your job to find whatever that glue is with that person. But in terms of the dialogue and the emotions, it was all on paper, and Rob really guided everybody. So all I felt like I needed to add was to connect with Kristen, and then she and I found that together.
Yeah. Usually when sort of you enter a show as a guest, you're entering this sort of already established world of characters and sort of stuff. But you were really, with this particular episode, sort of creating a different part of the world, and it really stands up as a standalone piece. What was it like coming into a show that had already sort of started running and working and being put together, but sort of all the ground you were treading was new at the same time?
It was neat. It was a really neat way to experience being a guest star, because they had shot their entire season. And so the crew, whenever you're working on a show, the cast and crew, there's a language that gets formed, and there's like an energy that the team has. And so coming on as a guest star or a small part in a movie is always weird, because you're trying to figure out how you fit in. It's like being the new kid at school. And so what was wild about this one was the whole thing had formed and was complete, and then we were creating something new, but within the rules of that show. So, we're the origin story of what happened in that space before, obviously, the show takes place. And so it was pretty neat to have the freedom to do what we want, but know that there were some rules and structures set in place by the main cast and the main show.
And it's the first season, so I'm imagining you hadn't had a chance to see any of the episodes.
No, I hadn't seen or I hadn't read anything. I wanted to do this one as a standalone piece. Because obviously Doc doesn't know anything that's going to happen in the future. So I didn't see any advantage of knowing too much about where the show goes.
Yeah. What was your talk us a bit about Doc and the character you play, because it's really, you get to tell his whole story in the space of the episode. What was the biggest challenge for you in playing him?
The thing I liked the most about kind of Doc was I try to, whenever I play a character, I try to find something about that character that I can like, that if it was somebody I wouldn't mind as Jake hanging out with. And the thing about Doc that I kind of like and felt sad for about him was I think he has a very good heart, but he can't help but being a bit of a sellout. And I think that's a very kind of likable trait. He doesn't want to be a sellout. He wants to be as pure as being. He wants to be a true artist. He wants to be fully pure. But when he talks to, the company and they tell him the kind of numbers he could get if he makes a change, he can't help himself. And so it almost felt like Doc has an addiction to selling out, and he's got an addiction to, manifest destiny almost. He needs to get bigger and better and try and push. And it's his fatal flaw.
Yeah. You being an actor, you're an artist as well in an artistic profession where there's also sort of commercial influences. Could you relate in some ways to Doc's? Yeah,
absolutely. In my line, I started off, as an actor doing all theater and doing, stage work in New York City. And when I first moved to Los Angeles, I moved out here because I had gone through a bad breakup with a girlfriend in New York. And I just wanted to check it off my list to say, I didn't have headshots until I was 26. I thought everything about the LA version of acting was, less pure. And then I got out here and I booked a Yahoo commercial and I made $15,000 and everything changed. And I started seeing what's great about Los Angeles. So, yes, the idea of getting a taste of the other side is something I could fully relate to with Doc. And I've been in meetings when we're talking about something creative and somebody from a studio or for a network lets you know what kind of success a certain change could make. And it is very hard to stay pure to an ideal when you see what success could be. And so those are the things I kind of grabbed hold of. Now, what I really liked about Doc, which I don't experience in my life, was that his love and his family life was also connected to his business. So by selling out in terms of business, he was also selling out his love. And that was something that I thought really defines someone who he is deep down. And you really got to see how sad he was about it in the video game scene towards the end when they're back and he gets to see Bean again, that he loves her and he wants to be with her and he knows he's screwed up, but he couldn't really help himself at the time. And I feel like that's a character trait when you can't get off the track, even though you know the train is going to hit you. There's something about a character like that I really enjoy playing.
Yeah. How do you not completely sell out in a industry or career where you do have to make compromises?
I think it's tricky. The way I've kind of done it, at least personally, is I think by the way, it was really nice seeing you briefly.
I feel like I need to pop in from time to time. Just
staring at a black screen and nothing is a little bit more surreal. I will say that.
Yeah.
But I guess the way that at least I personally do it is it was a way bigger question in my life and my pursuit of this business when I first started. I'm 42 years old now, and I've been now in this business working since I was about 27, 28. I don't really think too much anymore about selling out or getting too big or getting too small. I'm at a comfortable place where I'm at, and what I really want to do is I want to work with people who I want to work with people who I really respect and who are nice and kind to work with, and I want to be doing good stuff. Outside of that, if it's a big project or a small project, I don't care as much anymore, but I want to enjoy the people I spend my actual days with. And on something like Mythic Quest, I wanted to spend those days with Rob. So if this turned out to be a really bad episode and they scratched it and they said the standalone was a mistake, which I thought there was a chance of, it's a really weird idea to do an episode like this in the middle of a series. And when Rob first pitched it to me, it was not a situation I thought, well, for sure this is going to work. I thought worst case scenarios, it doesn't work and they don't release this episode. But I still want to spend that time with Rob. And I want to do this week. So for me, it's people and then I want to be able to do the kind of acting that I'm personally proud of. And if it also happens to be a sellout product, great. And if not, yeah, for sure. At this point, if they want to give me a lot of money for it, fantastic.
I love it. Like as you say, these standalone episodes, it's hard to know how they're gonna go. Sometimes they're the most critically panned episodes of a season, but this one is arguably been received the best out of, like, this one's had great critical acclaim. What's that response been like for you?
Really nice and surprising. It's there is always a risk when you do a standalone episode that our tone would be very different. And we knew while shooting it, members of the crew and people had said, like, the show doesn't feel like this. And when you're doing that, there's something about it that's very scary. And at this point of my career, I've been in products that the critics like, and I've been in products that the critics don't like, and the same with, the audiences. It's way nicer to be in something that people like. But while you're making it, I don't believe Like, some actors will say, like, we knew we had a winner. I don't believe that to be true. I don't feel like I know. So this has been a really pleasant surprise because I knew making it was really enjoyable. And the chemistry with Chris and I felt very real and very, like, it felt like something physical. And when Rob called action, I knew who those people were. And I liked their relationship. When I read Katie's script, I really liked that she made the choice that you don't have to see every big fight and you don't have to see everything to know where a relationship is at. And then the way Rob directed was he was very clear with what he wanted to shoot, how he wanted to shoot, and he knew exactly when he felt like he got something or when he didn't. So I was hoping people were going to like it because I enjoyed doing it. But it's been a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah, sometimes the tone is influenced just as much as by what's chosen not to show as what's chosen to show in a story. Absolutely. And in a performance as well, like what you want to portray and what you're not portraying. What was the most fun scene to film in the episode?
I really like doing the dancing sequence, actually, even though I'm not a great dancer and it's not something I really love to do. I really liked it because there didn't feel to be the pressure to do everything perfectly. The way Rob shot that was his camera operator was constantly moving as well. So rather than having a standoff camera on our feet and us having to hit each note, we just got to kind of dance and move, and the camera felt like the third member. And I shot a movie years ago, an independent called Drinking Buddies with Ben Richardson as our DP. And he was that same way where he was constantly moving in the space with us. And it felt like when you were in a scene, the camera operator was the third member of the scene. And that dance sequence had that in a fun way. And then the goodbye sequence was really enjoyable to shoot because I like as an actor when I get to feel the emotions the characters are feeling, because it's when make-believe gets to be its best, where you get to, if you're in love with a character, you get to feel that love for a moment. If you're sad, you get to feel it. And I really felt Doc's longing for Beans, and I really felt regret and sadness, and like something I really cared about that used to be with me was now a million miles away. And that feeling of loss, it was really nice to experience, especially because it wasn't real. So I got to go in the car and it got to be over. So those two scenes were kind of my favorite.
Do you ever have that feeling of loss when thinking back to New Girl, show you're on for 7 seasons?
Yeah, I miss that cast a lot. I really miss the tone that we had formed. That group felt like it turned into a bit of a family. And so, with family, you spend so much time together, is that you all know each other's good and bad. And I took that for granted, that when I start a new project, I don't have that with everyone. I knew how Zoe liked to be in scenes. Zoe knew how I liked to be in scenes. Same with Max and Lamorne. and Damon and Hannah, we all knew where the other person was good and bad. And I think we all just liked one another. So there was a feeling of, playing music with the same people over and over, it gets easier. So yeah, I definitely, I'll always feel connected to those people, and I'll always feel connected to that part. And there's something about that that'll always be sad, but there's also something I'm really glad I got to, as a fan of TV, I grew up loving television. And I always wanted to be in Cheers since I first saw that show.
Yeah.
So being able to be on a show that has had a cultural impact, that it matters to a certain group of people, is a really lucky thing. It's something that I don't take for granted. I know how much it is to like a TV show. So the fact that people like that show that much is a really neat thing.
Yeah, and I guess what you're talking about with like family and how that's sort of like a family, the good and bad. Is that something you take for granted when you're in it, and it's not till you're out of it and you're on a different set that you go, oh, like that was so good what we had there.
Yeah, yeah. We also knew what it was. The difference was, I think we did around 150 episodes.
Yeah, there are a few.
Yeah, so by the end, everybody just starts getting a little bored. You're able to do that. We were all able to do that show pretty easily. So, nobody was over preparing. No one was like stressed before scenes. We just knew how to do it. So I think by the end, everybody was, we didn't quit. We did get canceled. So we knew it was over. Fox was really cool to give us that final episode, that final season, to say goodbye. Zoe and I both wrote to Dana Walden and asked for more episodes, and I thought it was really cool she gave it to us. So we kind of got that 8-episode farewell tour where I think we all breathed it in. It was like if you got to do an extra month of your senior year of high school.
Yeah.
We did. Like, we got to show up, and it felt like even from the first episode, we had all started saying goodbye to the thing.
With Mythic Quest, do you think there's more of Doc's story, like, to tell?
I don't know.
Because he does not die. He does not have a dark, quiet death in the episode. So
I think creatively, he has a dark, quiet death.
Yeah. His soul, perhaps.
Artistically, he's got a loud, violent death. But I don't know. Honestly, it was such an enjoyable experience, but I don't really feel a desire to ruin it. So if there were a great way for Doc to come back and Bean to come back, I would be excited to see what that is, but we have seen the arc of their love story. So I don't quite know what it would be. Now, truthfully, and I'm not just trying to sound like an ass kisser, I really respect Rob and I respect that staff. So if I got a call from Rob saying he had a really smart take on it, I would for sure listen. The way this job came to be was I was in negotiations to go do Stumptown, and I wasn't sure if I could do a guest star right around that time. And so I got a call from Rob, and I told him I was interested, and I read the script, and I'm not a gamer. I don't play video games. I don't know anything about the world or the culture. I think I called Dr. Robo-Nick, and I was just off. And so I passed right away and said, like, I really respect you, Rob, but my head's on this other show, and I'm not a video game guy. I don't think I'm right for it. And he was very persistent. And he just kind of kept pushing and didn't take no for an answer. And I was happy to then say yes in the end because I kind of wanted to do it. And so I like playing Doc. I like Doc and Bean. I like working with Rob. If there were a really smart take and he was very passionate about it, I would come back. But as Jake, I don't see a way for Doc to come back.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And do you want to just quickly tell us what's the Stumptown experience? What was that like? Yeah,
really, really pleasant. Dave Bernard, the executive producer on it, I wanted to work with him for years, so he was my Rob on this. He did a hard push. Kobe's as talented and nice as advertised. Working with Cole Cyrus has been a dream come true. He and I do a lot of our scenes together. He plays Kobe's character's younger brother, and he is just a fantastic young actor. Michael Ealy and I got to do a bunch of stuff. I've been a fan of his for years. It's great. Cameron Mahan, Adrian Martinez, Tattoo Cardinal. It's just a stacked group. And so honestly, I really enjoyed it. We just got picked up for our season 2, and I really can't wait to go back and see what happens. It's a really great group of talent in terms of our actors. We were doing a photo shoot for it with our cast, and it is a wildly diverse top 7 in terms of the cast. I don't think I've ever seen a cast as unique as this one. I'm looking around and I'm like, man, I don't even know how to judge this show. And there's something about that I find really exciting. And I know creatively we've got some new voices coming in for season 2. And I'm excited to see what they do with it. The first year was a blast to make. And I think we can do something pretty special season 2, and I hope we do it.
Oh, really cool. Well, Jake, thanks so much for talking with us today about Mythic Quest, and all the best for Mythic Quest and Stumptown moving forward for the Emmy Awards that are coming up in particular later this year. And for people watching this video, you can go and watch our celebrity interviews online and make your own Emmy Award predictions, where you can predict people like Jake to get nominated for the Emmy Awards. Thanks so much, Jake, and all the best. And maybe next year we'll talk about Stumptown season 2 or something like that. That could be fun.
Love it. Great talking, buddy.